Hello students, welcome to Learner's Planet. Let us continue with the chapter Improvement in Food Resources. In the earlier session, I was discussing that how the food resources obtained from the plant origin are managed. For that, of course, the term is used that crop production management, and in that I explained to you that how the nutrients are planned or the nutrition management is done so as to increase the productivity. Right now, in today's session, I'm going to continue with the same part, and I will explain you that how the further improvement in the production of the crop can be done. So the first part related to the crop production management was the nutrient management, and that we have discussed in the earlier session. In today's session, I will explain to you the next part in the crop production management, and that is the irrigation. So what is this irrigation? I hope you understand this point very well. It is the process of supplying water to the crops through different sources at the different intervals by the human efforts. So this is what is meant by the irrigation. The water is essentially required for the growth of the plants. Right? The development or this growth is not possible if the plants are not able to absorb the water. From where this water is used up, right? So actually what happens, the soil is having the water, right? And the plants, the root part of the plants, they are having the tissues which are able to absorb the water from the soil. Xylem tissue is there, right? So that xylem tissue, it will absorb the water which is present in the surrounding, right? And it will then supply it to the upper part of the plants. Of course, if the plants are having a short height or they are belonging to the lower groups, then this xylem or the phloem tissue is not present over there, isn't it? So basically these plants, whatever is the type of plants, they absorb the water from the soil and is transporting it to the different parts through different means. And now if we are discussing about the crop, that means the cultivation at large scale, then of course the uniformity is to be maintained, right? And the level of water which is required for the growth of the plants, it is also supposed to be maintained well enough. In the countries like India, we are dependent upon the rainfall for the supply of the water. And if this rainfall pattern is disturbed in any particular season, then it it is having the direct effect, ill effect over the production. So at this point, the management is required. The farmers, they should not be dependent upon the rainfall for the water supply. And if this part is improved, definitely the productivity can also be improved. Now, if we are considering this, then of course, when the irrigation management is to be planned, two things should be considered. The very first one is the sources from where the water is to be supplied. That means artificially or in the different ways, the sources should be developed from which the water supply could be done. And second thing is the time and the frequency, right, of the irrigation. Because there are different types of crops and each crop is having different type of requirement for the water. And this time and frequency, it has to be ensured. In terms of the right stages when the growth is taking place, the quantity in which the water is required, and so on. And if all these things are managed, the productivity can also be improved. So now for this, we need to develop the different sources. We need to study the different sources of irrigation which are used in the fields by the farmers. So the common sources of irrigation is number one, that is well. You all are aware of this structure, right? There are two types of wells, right? They are the dug wells and the tube wells. So in a dug well, water is collected. Water is collected from the water-bearing strata. A particular length is selected. Over there, it is dug inside. The digging is taking place, and at a particular depth, the water source is emerging out. Fine. So these are the simple dug wells. This is one of the important source of the water in the fields. Next is the tube well. Now tube wells, they can tap water from the deeper strata. That means, see, strata, they are the different levels in the soil. So even when the means from the deep inside, that this type of water can be obtained through the taps. In these wells, water is lifted up by the pumps. See, when the irrigation is done, definitely the simply reaching up to the level of water in the land is not sufficient. It has to be supplied to the different parts of the fields also. So for that purpose, these pumps or different sources are used so as to force the water out. And that is what is shown here in this particular tube well. There are the wells which are supplied with the pipes and the pumps or the motors which are helping in the this supply of the water. Well, the next source is the canals. So canals, they are actually the elaborated or the extensive irrigation system. Basically, what happens in this? The main river or the main reservoir of water is there, and from that the water is actually supplied to the field through the small I can say the branches. Basically, you see what happens, the main river is there. From that, the normal narrow canals are artificially prepared, right, and they are supplied to the fields. And over there, through these fields, such type of diversion of the mainstream rivers, the water is supplied into the field part. And of course, depending upon its necessity, the further branching of these canals is also maintained. Well, next is the river lift system, and it is actually used in those particular area where the canal flow is insufficient, or the supply of water through these canals is irregular. So in this case, what happens? The water is directly drawn from the rivers and they are supplied to the irrigation. To the fields for the irrigation. So it is used in those areas which are situated near the these rivers, of course. So this is one of the picture which is showing such type of system. Next is the tank, and these tanks are basically the storage reservoirs. They are meant for storing the water. See, during the raining season, the water is drained away, right? And in such type of system, the tanks are maintained, or the in the catchment area, the such type of these units are developed where this rainwater is collected. And further, this particular water, it will seep down into the soil, or it will maintain the the level of water in the surrounding area. So it actually results in good vegetation area, and is of course one of the very good way for the use of this rainwater as well as for the irrigation system. Well, simply developing these sources is not sufficient. The water which has been collected, or the wells, whatever is present, the water present in these reservoirs, it has to be supplied to the particular part of the fields, isn't it? And for that, the traditional as well as modern methods are there. Some traditional methods are shown here in this slide, like the pulley system, the chain pump, dhekli, rahat or lever system. So these are some old type of methods which were used by the farmers. Now such methods, of course, they require more physical labor, right? More input from the physically more inputs are there. So that is of course a drawback of this thing. And secondly, the uniformity is also not maintained. You can see in this chain pump, it is the reservoir is there, and this pulley is there which is connected with the chain, and it is run through the pump or the motors which are running on the diesel or some other type of fuels. So these pictures are showing that the old models of the irrigations. Of course, the drawbacks are present. The effort is more in such system, and the output is also limited. So to improve this thing, nowadays the modern methods are used, and let us see what are they. So one of the modern methods which is used for irrigation nowadays is the sprinkler system. This sprinkler system is it is comprised of some perpendicular pipes which are having the rotating nozzles on the top, and these pipes all together finally they are actually joined to the main pipeline at the regular interval. So what happens when this water it flows through the main pipe under a pressure with the help of pump, of course, it gets sprinkled from the rotating nozzles on the crop as if it is raining. Such type of system is very useful for the sandy soil. You can see this in this picture actually. See, this is one of the pipe here, and in the in the perpendicular form, these small pipes are also present right over it, and at the top position there are some rotating nozzles. Fine. So what happens now here, when the water is moving here, and of course pressure is maintained over there with the help of motors or the pumps, so what will happen, the water will also move in the upward direction in these perpendicular pipes here, and they are since rotating, so the water which is flowing here, it will actually move, or it will rotate around, and the water is supplied to the entire part of the field. So this is how it is working here. The next type of system is the drip system. In this drip system, actually in this case the water falls drop by drop at the root position. Since it is dripping over there, it is falling in the form of drop, so it is known as the drip system. So it is done in the very controlled manner. See what happens in this, the pipes are arranged, they are maintained in the fields, and these pipes are connected to the main source. Fine. And with the help of motors or the pumps, by maintaining the pressure, the water is going to flow into these pipes, and the water they are having the pipes are actually perforated, they are having the pores, so from that the water will come out, it will ooze out in the form of drops, and that will maintain the moisture level in the soil. So of course this is a very good function, or it is a very good management. In this case the water loss is also managed, there is no extra water wasted over there, and is working in a very good manner in the fields. Well, there are many more different methods by which this irrigation can be managed, and this is for you now. And now further I will explain you the next part in which the improvement can be done. Improvement of the crop production, or simply the crop production management, can be done in the another way also. What is that? Let us see. So this third practice which is followed in the crop production management is the cropping pattern. Well, this cropping pattern is actually related to the raising of the crops which can help in obtaining the maximum benefit from the same piece of land. That means there is a same piece of land, land area is there over which the crops are grown, and the different types of crops are actually grown in the same piece of land. Now, when such type of thing is done, you know what are the basic advantages of this thing? The advantage is that it can reduce the risk of crop failure. It can, of course, reduce the risk of some diseases or the infestations. See what happens. And of course, the time can also be saved. If there is a risk like one of the crop production has failed, then another crop is also available over there from which the farmers can get the advantage, right? And similarly, if some specific pathogen has damaged a particular type of crop, the other is saved, isn't it? So in this way the cropping patterns, they can help in increasing or improving the production of the crop from the same piece of land. Now, as I'm saying that different types of crops are grown on the same land, then what type of management is maintained here? So it is managed in different ways, and those different ways are the mixed cropping, intercropping, and crop rotation. Mixed cropping means growing two or more crops simultaneously and randomly in the same field. That means two different crops, the seeds are present and they are sown into the soil in the random pattern at the same time, right? And of course in the same area. So in this case, the different types of crop are going to be produced at the end of the season. Then comes the intercropping. Now this intercropping is something similar to the mixed cropping. The difference is that in this case, the crops, they are of course grown simultaneously but in a definite pattern. There are the rows which are maintained. See, in the mixed cropping, what will happen? Can you think of the advantage? The crop which is harvested at the end, it will get mixed up, isn't it? So that will actually increase the efforts so as to separate the different crops over there. And of course, such intermixing can be prevented if the intercropping is followed. Because in this case, what is happening? Randomly the things are grown over there, but in a definite pattern. That means the rows are maintained, right? A single row of one crop is grown, the second row will have the different type of crop. So the intermixing is prevented in this case, and this will actually minimize the efforts of the farmers for the separation or during the harvesting time. The third pattern is the crop rotation. Crop rotation, in this what is happening, two or more crops are grown in the same land but in the successive manner. That means they are not grown at the same time, rather they are planned in a way that once a particular type of crop is grown and as soon as it is harvested, the second crop, the different type of crop is grown in the same land. So such type of processes actually help in replenishing the nutrients which are present in the soil, and also it increases the soil fertility. So I will show you some pictures and I will just discuss the basic points so that the concept will become much more clear. See, this is a picture which is showing the mixed cropping. So mixed cropping, in which this I said that the crops are grown randomly. Right. So in this case, the intermixing is clearly visible. Well, when such type of thing is planned, that means these different cropping patterns are planned. The basic thing is to be considered, and that basic thing is that the nutritional requirement of these crops, it should be different, so that it is not affecting the consumption. There is no competition between these different types of crops for the absorption of the material. So it is not at all going to affect the growth of each other, but definitely the same land can be used for different purposes for the different types of crops. So commonly, which type of crops are grown together? Like wheat is grown along with the grams, and this is because of the basic differences in their nutritional requirements. Then comes a combination used here is the wheat with mustard. Then groundnut, it can be grown with the sunflower, and there are much more different types here. The advantage of this mixed cropping is of course one, that is it reduces the risk of the failure, and it gives some insurance if the failure of one of the crop has taken place. Initially the double benefit is there, but in case if one of the crop has been failed, then definitely the other is present over there, which can actually which will help in facing the loss that has come across because of the another failure. The next type is the intercropping. So you can see this picture here. In the intercropping, there are rows here. This is one of the row, and this is the second row, that is which is of wheat, right? So in this case, as I already said, that the crops which are selected, they are having different type of nutritional requirements, and of course it ensures the maximum utilization of the nutrients which are supplied. Besides this, it can also prevent the pests and the diseases that are separating to all the plants belonging to one crop in the field. So of course this way both the crops can give us the better returns. So generally, which type of combinations are used here? They are like soya beans with the maize, or finger millets, that is bajra, with the cowpea. And there are many more examples which are used in these type of patterns. The next one is the crop rotation. Crop rotation is something different from the intercropping and the mixed cropping. In this, what happens, or what is this crop rotation? It is the growing of different crops on the same piece of land in a pre-planned succession. See, what happens in a particular season, each particular crop is having its own duration. So the period when the sowing is done till the harvesting, the time is estimated, and further how much time is left over for the end of the season, that is planned previously. So here what happens, depending upon this duration, crop rotation is done for different types of crop combinations. This planning will ensure that what different types of crops can be grown on the same particular land. Because of course the time required for its germination till its harvesting is definitely very important here. So this is how the things are actually planned. That means in the same season on the same land different crops are grown so as to take the maximum benefit of the season and other facilities also. Here the crop which has to be chosen, it actually depends upon the availability of moisture and the irrigation facilities. See, initially already I said that in our country, like in India, we are mostly dependent upon the nature for different types of facilities, like for the photo period, that is the sunlight, or the water supply. Many things are there for which we are dependent. Of course, one is the temperature also. So all these things are very much important when we have to select the type of the crop in the crop rotation. If these requirements for different types of crops, if they are planned in a proper manner, then I can say that this crop rotation can be done in the same field for around 2 or 3 crops in the same season, in the same year actually. So in this way, from the same land, maximum output could be obtained and the production of different types of crops can also be increased. So this is all about this thing, that is crop production management. And further, if the crop improvement has to be done, the next part is the protection. Whatever things we are growing, it has to be protected from different factors prior to its harvesting and post harvesting also. So that we are going to discuss in the next session. Till then, thank you so much. Have a nice day. Goodbye.